Hi, what's going on, guys? It's Simple here, and so I'm gonna be honest. This is very new to me. I've never done a video like this, or just like a normal, I guess like commentary type of video in general. So just to hop right into it, today I'm gonna be kind of talking about modern zombies and just some stuff around it, and kind of the main topic of this video would be moving forward into like a newer zombies iteration by either Treyarch or whoever else, preferably like Treyarch or maybe Sledgehammer, but preferably Treyarch, of course. And basically, the video I'm going to be talking about is like, what would I look for in kind of like a new iteration of zombies that would combine modern mechanics and classic mechanics? So, just to start off, like, kind of the inspiration behind this video is I just finally saw Donuts' video. If you're not familiar with Donuts, he's a zombies YouTuber, um, and content creator in general. And he recently just made a video on um this title like "This will make you look at modern zombies differently." And basically, the idea of the video is it goes back to Modern Warfare or not Modern Warfare, Black Ops Cold War, and how it ushered into this new era of modern zombies and all the things that it introduced and pretty much the community sentiment around it, and more specifically a lot of like prominent zombies content creators and how they reacted to Black Ops Cold War in general. But this video specifically focuses on all the positive stuff that they say about modern zombies, or specifically at the time Black Ops Cold War. And the focus of his video, and again, I don't want to misconstrue anything that he's trying to like kind of put out there as like the message. Go watch the video; it's really good. But basically, the idea is he intentionally just kind of like takes out all the negatives surrounding modern zombies and just focuses on all the positives that was said at the time. Just to kind of just bring some positivity back into just kind of the sentiment around zombies and kind of just what we liked at the time. Maybe not everyone was on board day one, but a lot of people, including myself, day one, we saw this new modern zombies from Black Ops Cold War, and we're at the beginning, we're like, oh yeah, this is like really good. A lot of it was like coming off of Black Ops 4, and a lot of people comparatively was like, yep, call Black Ops Cold War like really good. A lot of us, whenever we saw like early trailers and gameplay, we were on the fence until we played ourselves, and then we're like, oh yeah, this is actually pretty good. So as far as like what I'm about to say, this isn't like as in any way, shape, or form like direct opposition into Donuts and the message of his video. It's just my own personal thoughts and stuff regarding modern zombies. But as far as like my 2 cents at the time is when I first played Black Ops Cold War, DM Machine. I was in that same boat. I was like, well, this is really new. This is really cool. All the stuff that I thought was bad about this, I actually changed my mind. That's really cool at the time. So for me personally, and maybe a lot of people, it really took only the next few zombies maps to really get an idea of why modern zombies is a problem. Correct me if I'm wrong. This video isn't really structured, so if I do fact check myself, it'd probably be like a voiceover or something like that. So correct me if I'm wrong, but during the time at like Cold War, I can't remember like the exact content layout of the year, but I think it was of course the machine, and then I think Firebase Z came out, and then Outbreak came out. If I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure when Martyr Totem and then Forsaken came out. But for me personally, just to get to the point, especially when even at the time of DM Machine, even before Firebase Z came out, and then Firebase Z came out, and then Outbreak and stuff like that, you really started to kind of get to kind of see what the problem was with modern zombies, and basically it's just that the idea is every mechanic and stuff is pretty streamlined, and so at the time of Black Ops Cold War, and this is something I would regularly say to like my friends who ask me like what my thoughts on Black Ops Cold War was, and whenever I get would engage with like the community, like specifically like YouTube comments, my overall sentiment with Black Ops Cold War was that it wasn't bad, it was boring. So, kind of going back into all the positives that were like said at the beginning, like the stuff introduced at the time was, in what I believe at the time, really good. But you can see real quick as stuff get was like pretty streamlined. You know, all the mechanics were same map to map, all the crafting table stuff like that, XYZ map to map, is that it creates this kind of homogenous experience that kind of makes everything play the same. Now, backtrack on that. One thing that started off, or and what I thought started off really good with Black Ops Cold War, is that Firebase Z, in my opinion, was a completely different like experience from the machine, and that's because at the time they were actually still trying to do like more map unique mechanics. So one of the biggest things about just zombies in general is that they always tried to focus on map to map unique stuff that would make the experience different from the last. So Firebase Z, actually, I enjoyed it fairly amount at the time because it did have those map unique mechanics. So Firebase Z or D Machine, pretty bare bones, good entry, and then Firebase Z, it brought back, this isn't like brand new, but it brought back stuff like launch pads. It had teleporters, or it had the one teleporter where you get from spawn to like the main map, and then you have stuff like the order rounds, which are the special rounds where you have to stop the order or the orders, or they take out power in the local area. You had stuff like where they introduced a mimic, and that was a really cool, like, unique boss. Very annoying, but still really cool. Firebase Z is like one of those maps that people usually put at like their bottom. And for me personally, like, I don't really disagree that it's like one of the bottom maps, but for me personally, what I respect about it a lot is it did kind of, in a lot of ways, have that more like classic zombies feel as far as what it introduced with map unique stuff. Now, whether those stuff that they introduced were good or bad, of course, is depending on the person. So, and then I know I remember like settings wise, Marauder Totem was pretty good. Um, I'm not gonna lie, that's at this point I already had like fallen off the game a lot. Like I did play Marauder Totem a good bit, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't really remember a lot about that map besides like let's say the Cerberus, and it's like different um pack or not pack a punch, like upgrade tiers, which I thought was really good. How it was like an attachment that drops from the zombies, and then you could like swap back and forth. Besides that, I can't necessarily at the top of my head remember a lot of map unique stuff. Besides like the Klaus that was, I'm pretty sure that Klaus like aided you, similar to the Civil Protector back in Shadows of Evil. So that was really cool. Um, but and then they kind of like fell off of that. So going past that, moving, trying to focus on Treyarch main titles, and then we get Black Ops 6, and we all know how Black Ops 6 is, on how they kind of made this really a lesser version of Black Ops Cold War. I'm gonna be honest, but you kind of get the main idea. So I always said Black Ops Cold War was bad, not boring, and I kind of still hold that kind of sentiment towards modern zombies in general, everything that's happened since then, and the overall sentiment I usually always say as far as why I don't like modern zombies is, again, their goal and to make everything like more streamlined is just to create this homogenous experience that, in my opinion, gets very bored, very boring very quickly. So why is that? It's because, again, while Black Ops Cold War, I believe, tried to do a lot more map unique stuff, um, Black Ops 6 just completely strayed away from that for whatever reason. And that was kind of like what really made modern zombies or classic zombies stand out is, well, there's a lot of things that make classic zombies stand out. And we'll go more into that here in a second after I put in my 2 cents about modern zombies. But, or I guess I will just get to the point. So, yeah, you kind of get the idea, like, modern zombies with the systems and everything streamlined, having like pretty much the same thing on every single map, barring like let's say just wonder weapons and maybe some map unique enemies and stuff. Of course, again, Black Ops 6 kind of fumbled the bag with that. But there's a lot about modern zombies I could get into that we have all heard before. So, what kind of makes classic zombies, quote unquote, superior? So, we're gonna completely ignore right now, for the sake of my argument, the whole kind of skill difference that classic zombies always had. So, of course, the main reason all these modern systems are the way they are is to make it more accessible to the casual player. And I could go into that all day. There's a lot I could say about that. That could be a separate video, but the biggest thing about the classic systems, barring the difficulty, was the map to map uniqueness that made every experience very replayable because you could approach them very differently. We'll just start with the foundation of just literally the classic point system. Everything about the classic point system is about people, about why we want it back. You've already heard it. I don't really want to go too much into it. If you're familiar with Expert Fusion, I love watching his videos. Pretty much every take he has about classic zombies is stuff you've or I personally like agree with like 99.99%. So if you want to hear about why the classic point system is such like an integral part of why zombies should always have it in some shape or some way, shape, or form, just go watch Expert Fusion. I could go into that all day. But stuff from like classic point system to map mechanics, and I kind of want to bring this up because a lot of people were like hating on Milo. Mr. Waffles. I'm sure everyone knows him, especially if you're a zombies fan. Going into like Black Ops 6's reveal, he was pretty upset because he felt that Black Ops 7 doesn't introduce anything crazy different than Black Ops 6, which is very true. And I would even say it's a step further that, nothing has really differed from since Black Ops Cold War. They have continued to refine the systems that they have, but they haven't really added any new systems that would change how a single game plays, let alone um, map to map. But again, that's something that's more nuanced. But the biggest thing was like, oh, you feel like a lot of people were saying like, oh, you don't like Black Ops 7 because Mr. Ruffalo said he feels like it's the smallest jump from a zombies game mechanics wise ever, which it very much is. And a lot of people were like, oh, well, you never played Black Ops 1 to Black Ops 2. And I never really understood that argument, and I've been on Twitter like at the time when people were saying that I was under Twitter comments like listing out all the different things that they added in Black Ops, from 1 to 2, like content wise, system wise, mechanics wise, map to map wise, and universal wise. There's a lot different. But I said to say that again, even back then in classic zombies, they very much focus a lot on map to map differences as far as mechanics wise goes and stuff like that. And that's what made each experience a lot more unique, and for most people, of course, who got into zombies because of that, more fun. Now, to say that, because each map was very unique, some maps were harder than others, some maps were less enjoyable than others, because of those mechanics or layout or whatever, what have you. But at the end of the day, like there was always, I believe, a map for someone in each game. And of course, with corporate gaming, at the end of the day, like you have to have as many people playing not only your game at a time, but each of these maps at a time. Because if you spend all this time to this map, no one plays it. What's the point? Type of thing. As far as uh, monetary reasons goes, what have you. So a lot of modern systems, while it does achieve that everything feels the same. I think that they want that, of course, because if every map feels the same and every map is easy, then you're more equally to play every map. But that's for people who are just entering. But for a lot more like experienced, long term players like myself, for me it's the opposite. It's like, why would I play this new map if it's gonna play the same as this map? And at the end of the day, it's like, well, which map just is more uh let's say like appealing, like layout wise, location wise stuff. I would just rather play like that map as opposed to the others, right? But classic zombies had that natural, I believe, fun and progression in game from just the map to map, unique mechanics and stuff that they would add. So a lot of the biggest issues I unfortunately see is, or I wouldn't say issues, a lot of the comments I see, especially with people who defend modern zombies against people who prefer classic zombies, a lot of people are saying, oh, you just don't want classic or zombies to change. And that's not necessarily the case. What made classic zombies so good is because the formula works, or it worked, and they just continue to iterate on it. And then you have Black Ops 4, which completely changed the formula, and completely changed the formula wasn't inherently bad. Black Ops 7 or Black Ops 4 was just unfortunately bad, because those mechanics just didn't work out, unfortunately. And then they reinvented the wheel again for Black Ops 6, or Black Ops Cold War. I'm sorry, I'm getting everything all over the place. But they reinvented the wheel on Black Ops Cold War, which um, was, I believe, and most people would agree, was better than Black Ops 4. And so, where would we stand now if we were to either iterate on current zombies, and what would that iteration look like if we were to incorporate modern or classic mechanics that worked to make zombies trend upward the way it did, and stuff like that. So, um, what I would say first and foremost, let me talk a little bit about Black Ops 3, because Black Ops 3, in my opinion, um, I was there at the launch of Black Ops 3. It was like not very well received, specifically Shadows of Evil. Then you had the Giant, which people are like, we're getting the Giant again. This is nothing crazy, blah blah blah. Then you get to DLC season. DLC season was very back and forth, um, and then you get Zombies Chronicles, of course. So but overall, at least now, people agree that while people may have not have like the maps and stuff and whatnot, what made Black Ops 3 so successful in general, I believe, in my take, I don't have the objective part of what made it so successful, but I think it did a great job of iterating and combining former systems. Let's say from like Black Ops 2, because Black Ops 2 was a very difficult game, and then they made it, I feel like, more um accessible in a lot of ways. So a lot of things with modern mechanics, they make it a lot more simple because they don't want people to feel like they have to look up guides all the time. And while for Black Ops 3, you definitely still had to look up guides for certain stuff. The thing that really made Black Ops 3, in my eyes, accessible was that even though you had to look up a guide, once you figured it out like one or two times, it was very easily replicable, which, in my opinion, made it more accessible while still keeping, of course, that classic zombies formula. So from stuff like, I would say Shadows of Evil is one of those very hard barrier to entries, if that's the right wording. Because there is a very good like big skill gap with the what's it called, the beast mode and stuff, and I would say the same with Mob of the Dead. Long story short, Black Ops 2 is what like got me into zombies, and I did go back and play like Black Ops because I owned Black Ops 1. I just didn't play a lot of zombies. And I owned World at War, didn't play a lot of zombies. But Black Ops 2 is what got me into zombies, and because I was still playing Black Ops 1 and like older CODs, I would switch between all of them. I was able to go back and play those games as well. But anyway, Black Ops 2 was very hard, specifically Mob of the Dead. Like, Mob of the Dead was just one of those maps that had like a lot of different mechanics and what have you, blah, blah, blah. But what made Black Ops 3 more accessible is, let's say Black Ops 3 kind of more or less refined, or with Shadows of Evil, kind of quote unquote more or less, I wouldn't say refined, but made it more accessible than, let's say, Mob of the Dead, was because Mob of the, or Shadows of Evil had the same similar system as the Afterlife with the Beast mode, but it kind of stripped away a lot of those like more complex mechanics of, let's say, Brutus disabling perks and stuff like that, and a lot of other like stuff where you have to, like, even Easter egg wise, a lot of people weren't a fan of having to just go back, refetch a lot of stuff over and over again. But I digress. But again, I still, at least in my opinion, firmly agree. or I firmly believe that Black Ops 3, while it still had that complex formula, even though you did have to maybe search a guide for something, uh, for a lot of things, it was still easily replicable. Another big example, and I like using Shadows of Evil because it was a map again that I never really, it was very like difficult, and so even though I consider myself a good zombies player at the time, I didn't really play it as much as the giant because a lot of I use the giant for a lot of like leveling. But for example, back during Black Ops 3 and even after, I never learned how to obtain the uh the the sword, the Apothicon sword that you could get as a specialist. I never learned how to obtain that myself. The only times I would ever get that is when I would play with my friend, who he's a big Easter egg guy. He's the one that actually got me into Easter egg hunting, and that was all with Black Ops 3. He's the one that got me into all that. I kid you not, I never built the sword myself for the first time, at least that I can remember, until like I believe like a few weeks ago, if not like a month, or it was like actually around the Black Ops 7 beta. I think before it came out, I actually was playing a little bit of Shadows of Evil because I was like, let me play some classic zombies so I could play it to Black Ops 7. So this was actually like right before the Black Ops 7 beta came out because we were going to have the farm beta. And that was actually the first time ever I looked up how to get the sword myself, to do it myself. And I did it the first try. It was very easy. So again, that's one of those things where even though you might have to find a guide to look for something, it's something that's very easily replicable. So where like the experience was overall not super difficult. And then there's a bunch of other stuff, of course, with Black Ops 3 that made, well, I believe, people say that Black Ops 3 was like the super easy, but I think it definitely found the right balance of challenging while still being accessible. And I would say like stuff that contributed to that, where they increase your health or maybe decrease zombies' health. Not sure, to where instead of a 2 hit down without jug, you had a 3 hit down without jug. And then they did stuff where you had like upgraded zombie shields, where those were an additional thing of doing damage. Um, they had, of course, the infamous AATs, where in high rounds, AATs made it to where your gun was still very much viable, and they still had a good balance of having a bunch of traps that you could use that could make your experience a lot more still viable, while also having like very good but unique infinite damage like wonder weapons. So each wonder weapon I believe like feels very different, while still majority of them, if I'm not, if I'm remembering correctly, being fairly like infinite damage. So, you had the Wonder Waff and the Giant. You had the Apothicon Servant in Shadows of Evil and Revelations. You also had the Thunder Gun in Revelations. You had the KT4 and Zetsubo. And then you had the Ray Gun Mark threes, which weren't infinite damage, but they were still very good. But then you still did have like stuff like specialist weapons that were infinite damage. And again, going back to specialists, or not going back, but going to specialists, like again, that was another thing where it made your experience a lot more accessible. And I'm using this word very purposely because, again, I think Black Ops 3 did a kind of a perfect balance of the game still having that natural, like classic zombies difficulty, but kind of refining it, which when you reach those higher rounds, it is still very, while you still have that challenge, it's still very possible to reach high rounds without being like super insufferable. Like I did some like very good high rounds, like for Zombies Chronicles, I had like an Ascension first room challenge where I didn't open any doors or anything. I just used a bunch of gobble gums to get stuff out of box, pack a punch, pop workaholics. And in Ascension, I got to like round 90 something before I ended up dying because I ran out of ammo. Um, and then yeah, stuff like that. And then even in uh, what's it called, Dryden, I was able to get to like round 70 something. And then I remember the only reason didn't go higher, well, basically, long short, I was able to get to high rounds while still having that interactive element of being able to use stuff and having that strategy around everything. So I think that's where the balance of zombies should be, is where it has that classic formula of what zombies is, while still being accessible to players without essentially completely reinventing the formula. Well, now it's too late. You know, we're way past that. I still think they should continue to iterate in meaningful ways, but there's definitely a lot of things about classic zombies that makes it um, quote unquote for most people more interactive, which in turn makes it more fun. So with that out of the way, and again, there's like a lot more I could say on all these topics, but with that out of the way, obviously we're going into Black Ops 7. Black Ops 7 for a lot of people isn't really going to be that crazy difference from Black Ops 6. I think the biggest thing at this point is unfortunately the a lot of the modern systems because it's just directly transferring. I don't think Black Ops 7, at least for me personally, isn't going to be all that crazy. Again, a lot of things I think what makes there's a lot of things that makes classic zombies, in my opinion, more fun and enjoyable and interactive naturally, while also being um, just overall fun. And I think kind of Black Ops 7 with their systems is gonna lose me on that. Even with curse modes, kind of like we still have to see a lot more in curse mode, and that's kind of my selling point for Black Ops 7 Zombies specifically. Now, I played a lot of the Black Ops 7 multiplayer, and that was really fun. I'm not here to talk about multiplayer, but I will still probably end up getting Black Ops 7, but I will actually probably be playing more multiplayer than ever. Um, for like a while. Like I've always been, or since Black Ops 2, I've is when I kind of transitioned myself into being more of a zombies player. But anyway, Black Ops 7 is really for me. Zombies is most likely going to be dead on arrival. Could that change? Sure. Could curse mode be what like kind of makes me fall in love with zombies again? Sure. As far as standard mode, I think the only thing that could make me enjoy standard mode in any slight capacity is again if they go back to those more map unique mechanics that makes the game uh, different map to map that makes it more enjoyable and interactive and fun to hop back into. So I say that all to say the point of this video is obviously we could talk about the past and present all we want, but what about the future? What now? We've always said, and kind of going back to my point, and a lot of comments I see is like, oh, you don't want zombies to change. Everyone just wants to go back to the um classic systems and have them 1-to-1. But I firmly disagree. Even in Black Ops Cold War, a lot of things I would think, especially even at launch with the machine, I was like, okay, these new systems are really cool, but they don't hit that pause spot for me. What would make it more interactive in ways that would utilize voice crack, that would utilize a lot of those more classic systems. So essentially, instead of not changing, a lot of people have been asking not to really go back 1-to-1, but how do we combine these systems in a meaningful way that could potentially appease both sides? So first and foremost, I don't know where to properly start with this, but I just kind of want to say, especially with Black Ops 7 actually bringing back survival maps, I was going to say what really brought me into Black Ops 2 Zombies was stuff like survival maps and the game modes like Grief and Turn. So I'm going to start off with saying while I am still going to be combining these systems in the what I'm going to be showing here, I'm just gonna straight out say I don't think Black Ops or Call of Duty Zombies, track specifically, should have ever strayed from reinventing the main standard mode to appeal to more casuals. It should have always been appealed appealed to like what it was before, like the more hardcore, like the integrity of the game of being like bare bones, build your way up in game, and that kind of like natural progression and stuff like that. Um, and I, like I said, always thought that um, introducing casuals should have been in other ways. So, for example, I thought Black Ops 4 um, did a really good job of introducing difficulty sliders. Now, I would say really did a great job because for a lot of people, like the biggest thing about the difficulty sliders was that the way like they still counted for the leaderboard. So a lot of people were like, well, why would I play on any other difficulty than casual if, I'm like, let's say going for high rounds. And for me, like I remember back then I would switch between like casual and standard. Standard when I actually wanted to do side Easter eggs, like me, I'm a big like every time I hop into a map, I activate the Easter egg song. You can't do that in casual. But I think in the difficulty sliders were maybe a good idea. Was it implemented properly? Maybe not. Could it return in any capacity? I would say probably not with the way zombies is nowadays. But I think stuff like survival maps and even just the small game modes like Grief and Turn should have been something that was a staple from Black Ops 2 and in every other game afterwards. Because I believe that stuff like that should have been what kind of drove in the casual community to kind of ease themselves into those modes to become to kind of build yourself up to tackle the main modes. So even though I said like Black Ops 3 had a good combination of not necessarily being the most difficult, but while also still having that difficulty, it just didn't have any other side modes that would. You just had your main modes and stuff like that. But even if there wasn't a survival mode stripped from the main maps that were created, what if they just made just different side modes or like different survival like maps and stuff just based off of just a random location or something, right? Just stuff like that, or even again having Grief to Turn. Like imagine like Grief to Turn like in Shadows of Evil, just like in that main area in the middle of the map, right? Stuff like that. So I was just saying that I think that survival maps, and kind of game modes should have always been what led kind of ease casuals into zombies instead of reinventing the whole standard formula. And you're going to see what I'm talking about here towards the end after I kind of go into what I want to talk about today. So, as you can see in my Word document, I created like quote unquote ideal zombies game mode combining modern and classic systems. Now, this ideal quote unquote game mode would be my eyes. Obviously, everyone's gonna have different opinions and stuff like that. This is kind of what I see as good ways to like kind of um, combine both the modern and classic mechanics. And if you think any of these you just hard disagree with, or you firmly agree with, or is like, oh, I kind of agree with this sentiment, but maybe we could tune it this way. And I'm gonna kind of go into like different ways that I think you can tune these. What are these points I'm gonna say? A lot of these like just big overarching points with like just the main mechanics and systems in um modern zombies, and there's obviously going to be like a lot of like little stuff that I either don't mention or I mention in passing. So we're going to start off with the obvious. I think we should bring back classic point system. Now, again, I'm not going to go too deep into the classic point system, but just the main points. Classic point system. I never understood the sentiment that it was hard to understand. Um, but it did provide a skill gap, but it wasn't necessarily hard. Like in my eyes, especially when I was new to zombies, you could easily just like blitz through rounds and stuff like that. And you could still, and that would only put you, if you're not points matching, that would only put you behind really like 1 to 3 rounds at most, as far as like kind of like your basic setup before you get like really set up. Just kind of like opening the map a bunch, and just kind of like just getting like just one weapon to kind of just guide you through a few rounds and stuff like that. Getting like your first like few perks or something like that. Like when I was playing Shadows of Evil and when I was points maxing to, kind of get to the to open up everything, kind of get to where I want to be. Points maxing is very time consuming, but what I did find ironically was that in modern zombies you just can just blitz it around and you can have everything open by round 7 or 8, right? And Shadows of Evil, when I was playing, I found it like I could get to the same point, like have everything open by round 7 or 8, But it did take a lot of time to do that. But I say that to say, like, if you just decide to blitz through the rounds, you could still have like everything open, but it'll probably be to like maybe around like 10, 11 at most. But you're still effectively doing the same thing. Points maxing just kind of gets you set up earlier, but it's going to be more time consuming. So people who just kind of want to go in and play, it's just really going to put you back a few rounds because at the end of the day, everyone just kind of wants to get the gun that they want, either out of the box or off the wall, and they're just going to go right into it anyway. So classic point system, just going into that, like, again, it just creates like a huge variety of how you play, either points maxing or just blitzing through it. Allows you to just use a huge variety of guns and stuff like that. It is objectively the most interactive, I believe, system in the game, and I think that just that should be a staple just in any zombies mode. Now, kind of going back, if you maybe tweak the point system in a way that I've seen like expert fusion again, like kind of provide a lot more kind of different ideas of creating like a new point system. I think one of them like mainly aligned with like, again, you just have like a stable amount of points, but if you do something like chain headshots or something, it could kind of like increase your points. So either way, I think the main idea is the idea of just having like a you just get a set amount of points per kill. Even if it's not the 1-to-1 point system returning, I think we should have a point system that allows you to, in some way, shape, or form, get additional points per kill, um, so that it can create a more interactive system. But again, it doesn't ideally have to be the classic point system. I would just like to not have a point system where you just get a certain amount of kills, depending on whatever gun or how you kill them. Starting pistol. So again, foundationally, I think zombies should be around revolved around building yourself up in game. I think you should start with as little as you can, and then you build your way up. Now, just to say that we should start with a starting pistol, I think ways that could maybe alleviate the kind of strain of starting with a start pistol, and it will kind of also maybe help like get rid of the stress of like points maxing is like, let's say the starting pistol you have doesn't have to be a semi-automatic starting pistol. Like, what if we just started with like a 3-round burst starting pistol, like a full auto uh pistol, where it doesn't have to be something as strong as like an SMG or an AR, but you still have something viable to get you through those few rounds, right? And you can still effectively like maybe points max. Like I know in modern zombies you can like, or modern just Call of Duty in general, like you can toggle like your firing mode. So let's say you have like a fully auto pistol, but you can toggle it to semi-auto, so you can either just go in full auto and just burn through the zombies, or you could toggle it to semi-auto for that points maxing. Again, with maybe like a burst rifle. So I still think you should be able to start with like a starting pistol. Whether it has to be a semi-auto or not, again, I'm strongly with like, again, we're trying to progress the mode to not make it feel the same every time. I think Black Ops 4 did kind of a good job with that, where even though you could start with like some different weapons, it kind of started with like weaker weapons. If I remember correctly, I'm not sure if you could start with anything crazy. I think it was just kind of like some weak shotguns, or actually the shotguns weren't really weak, but I digress. But they also like changed the point system, so they kind of like let you start with anything. Um, but moving on. So if we're starting with the starting pistol, we're going to be effectively removing rarities and removing loadout weapons. And this is kind of where I'm going to start going into like the big overall like overhauling of the system. So obviously we'd be removing rarities. If we remove rarities, I think of course double tap should go back to double tap 2.0. I think that should just be a given. I kind of hate the way they reintroduced double tap and made it literally what everyone thought was a worse version, and then you have to buff it with augments. Obviously, in this new like versions of zombie, and again, this would be like for a future title. Obviously, they wouldn't be able to do anything crazy with Black Ops 7. Maybe not even Black Ops 8. Obviously, they would have time to do stuff like this for Black Ops 8, but whether they would be able to really, whatever their plans is, I'm not sure. But again, this would be for like a future title. But basically, I would assume we still have augments, but I think we still should like just have double tap 2.0 be the standard base version. So that would just be deal double damage across the board, right? So and because we're removing rarities, like that could also apply for wonder weapons and stuff like that. And then so we'd be removing loadout weapons. So this loadout weapon idea, I'm gonna be honest, I stole from Extra Fusion. It's kind of like the general idea, but obviously you would start with a pistol, but then your loadout weapon would just be something you unlock through progression through the map. So obviously, this would very easily work, I believe, because they literally did this in Black Ops 2. In Buried, I don't think it was in Die Rise. I think this was only in Buried. But you were able to put your gun inside of a fridge. And then you could like keep that gun in that fridge, and then the next game you load up, you could take it out of the fridge, and it could be pack a punch and everything. So, for example, like on Buried, I'd always just put a pack a punch. Was it the AN94? And I put that in there, and then I just put take it back out. So this is obviously a concept that has already been done. So I don't think it's far fetched to reintroduce it and to just make it a lot more simple. Just so again, it'd be something that keeps the foundation of the mode, but still makes it accessible for those casuals, right? So I think a loadout weapon. And you're gonna see kind of like this idea for like a lot of stuff that I'm gonna mention, but I think the loadout weapons should be something you just naturally progress. You maybe just unlock it through like a quick 1 to 2 step like side quest. When I mean side quest, I mean like very basic. So again, because it would be similar to Black Ops 2, where it's not really anything game breaking, and it would just allow you just to get like a quick gun that you either just want to use to just slay through, um, or use for camo grinds. Now, obviously, you wouldn't be able to put something like a well, this would be a loadout that you would select in menu, so I'm not going to say what I was going to say. But this would be something as basic as, let's say, you naturally go through the map, and then you open up power and or pack a punch, and then like you opening up power unlocks a door somewhere, and then that door just has like a little crate where your loadout weapon is in there. Boom, like that's it. Let's make like they can just make it that simple, or they can make it quote unquote slightly more complex where it could be something where in your menu you have like your different inventory slots, and then let's say you unlock like a key card. Now go before I continue, like if they made like the let out weapon like something like I think they should make it something simple, but if you wanted to make it fun, you can make it like it's still going to be like a 1 to 2 step side quest, but it'd be different like map to map. So for example, I would say like instead of just like you turn on power and it opens a door somewhere that it just has your loadout, maybe you do like a quick like, oh, you collect like a key card on the ground, and that key card you just bring it to a console, and then that console opens up somewhere, and that in either there's a door right next to the console and you get your loadout, or maybe even like there's a door like near spawn of whatever the map, or something that just makes something spawn where you get your loadout weapon. Whether or not that loadout weapon has to have like a price tag to it, that doesn't really bother me because you have the classic point system. You'll be able to easily get those points. But again, it could easily just be something free because it'd be something like a concept similar to Buried, where I mean the only point you have to spend is opening up the door to get to the fridge. So, but as far as getting access to your loadout weapon, again, it could be something where I wouldn't say the price tag should be too big. Maybe like 500 points to like 1,000 points. Maybe the price changes on what type of gun is in it. So let's say like you want to do like pistol challenges. So you spawn in with a pistol. That pistol is just universal. Maybe you can change what pistol you spawn in with, in the menu. But let's say you spawn in with one pistol, but you have to do challenges for another pistol. So let's say your loadout weapon, if you have to like buy it out, pistol's like 250 points, and then at most like an AR or a sniper rifle is like 1,000 points. You can find interesting ways to keep like to make it dynamic like that. But again, I would say for the sake of like being casual friendly, like just let's just say like you can just unlock it for free. Like, or you can like take it out for free, but to unlock it, it's still like just a quick like 1 to 2 step just thing where you just have to either turn on power or just like open some door somewhere to where to get your stuff. So there's that. Um, the next thing I would want to tackle is the perk limit. Now, before I get into the perk limit, the biggest thing about the biggest problem I have with modern zombies and not having a perk limit really is the economy. Obviously, with the classic points or the normal points or standard modern point system. Sorry, I can't talk. With the modern point system, you can't get additional points, and with the way the perk system works is it starts at like 250 points for your first perk, and then it scales 250 or by 500 points every time you get the next one. That's really my biggest problem um with the modern perk system with is how expensive it can get. Now if we did keep the same perk system with classic point system, I think we it would be a lot more manageable. But then you still have to take into account like the whole pack a punch system and stuff like that. Um, but I think for me, a couple ways I would change the perk system is I would arguably reintroduce a perk limit, where it would be. Hear me out. It would be maybe like 6 perks at least. Like right now, I think going into Black Ops 7, we're gonna have like, was it 12 or 13 point or perks at launch. That's not even including maybe any more that they might introduce later in the seasons. But Black Ops 7 also is introducing where perk drops will actually naturally drop within like the drops like rotation. So like insta kill, max ammo stuff. Perk drops are going to be dropping in that. So I think reintroducing a perk limit wouldn't be all that crazy, because you would have ways to get additional perks like that perk drop. And again, having 6 at least will give you enough perks to kind of be able to play very differently, and like kind of put yourself out there. Then you still have those opportunities to get extra perks. Now, I think you still should be able to have other opportunities to get extra perks like side quests. If you do, of course, like the main Easter egg, you should always just be able to um, get all the perks from completing it. I mean, I assume that's just going to be a staple going forward, as it's always have been. Um, so you'll always have ways to get additional perks, but a perk limit just diversifies the way that you have to either approach something. Now going into a perk limit, if they did have a perk limit, I think there should be a way to, of course, swap out perks like mid game. Now, again, obviously, you would be able to get additional perks from free perk drops and stuff like that, side Easter eggs, whatnot. But again, and again, this is, of course, I am taking ideas based off of Expert Fusion, but these are ideas that I strongly agree with. Being able to, in some way, shape, or form, go back to the perk machine that you went to and just be able to remove it. So that way, it would make early rounds more interesting, where you can get like less interesting perks that you don't really care about in early rounds. For example, and again, I'm using his examples like something like melee macchiato. You might win it for early rounds where you can do a lot more melee damage, in which you can maximize on points, and then you can effectively remove that, so you won't have to worry about it for later rounds. But you would still probably end up getting melee macchiato anyway from either perk drops or something like that. So I know that perk limits is a very controversial topic, but I think it could still work as long as they just increase the perk limit cap. Like, of course, I don't think we should go back to 4. Whether it's even like something higher, that's why I said 6 perks at least. But I'm still very open to no perk limit. So, what would a no perk limit rework look like? One thing that always bothered me was that again, with the introduction of these modern systems, with the also perk limit being removed, that they had to make it scale the points and stuff like that. And I'm not a big fan of that. Whether this is the solution or not, again, this is something that's very. This can go in many directions as far as changes to this could go, but I think, let's say if we still had no perk limit, I think the main perks that are available on a given map. So obviously, not every map is going to have every perk machine in a map, because most of them or the rest of them would be in Wonder Fizz machines. But I do think that the perks that are available in the map should go back to their OG perk costs. So, for example, Jug used to just be all the time 2,500 points, stuff like Double Tap, 2,000 points, Sleight of Hand, or Speed Cola, 3,000 points, and Quick Revive if you're on like solo, 500 points, co-op 1,500 points. Whether they just make that 1,500 across the board, I don't really care, even if it's for solo. I think that's fine. But I think the maps obtainable in the map should be at their OG perk cost. So that would make it to where, whatever the perk limit is or whatever, you just get those perks. But this would also change how you interact with the Wonder Fizz machine, because I think then the Wonder Fizz machine would either have a set perk cost, because it'd be weird because if Jug is still in the Wonder Fizz machine, why would you buy it like 2,500? But then if you have like scaling in the Wonder Fizz machine, like that kind of make you never want to buy it from the Wonder Fizz. But there's also another way to interact with the Wonder Fizz. Instead of making it random again, I think it not being random like it used to be is one of those things I could definitely live with, that being a set change, just again for the sake of accessibility for casuals, because it's not really a big deal. But I think I would change the Wonder Fizz machine to where any perk that you buy in the Wonder Fizz machine, regardless of if it's available in the map or not, just has like one set cost. Again, I mean, maybe it could scale. I wouldn't be a fan of it, but that would kind of create like a lot of nuance again with the the kind of first half of this rework of being like perks available within the map or at their OG perk cost. Um, but I think perks obtained through the Wonder Fizz would have a set perk cost price of maybe something not too crazy, like 3,000-4,000 points. Again, that's something that could be like debated and changed and stuff like that. So, for example, again, you have no perk limit. You go ahead and get all the perks that are available in the map at their normal prices. Then any additional perks that aren't available out in the map that are only available through the Wonder Fizz, like you can get all of them, but maybe they're all like worth 3,000 or 4,000 uh, points a pop. So that's going to change how you interact with it. But that's also going to change for later rounds, because you're going to see with like a lot of these changes later and what I'm going to be talking about. That kind of the main point I want to. One of the main things I want to like bring back to zombies is that actually like having a reason to move around the map. But I'm gonna get back into that. But this is like one of the things that would reintroduce that. So let's say if you just wanted to get everything straight out of the Wonder Fizz machine, even if you have quick revive, jug, speed, cola, double tap, what have you, right? If you get everything for the Wonder Fizz, let's say you're on a high round, right? You're on a high round. Obviously, if you just went down, it's going to be a lot more difficult to go back and to each of those machines individually to buy them back. Maybe you just want to go to the Wonder Fizz machine and just buy all your perks straight up, right? I think if you're at a higher round, you would most likely have a lot more points at your disposal. So if you're in a high round and you're like training in an area, and maybe even the area is like not far from the Wonder Fizz machine, but maybe like you're on your way back to the or going to the Wonder Fizz machine because you just went down, and so whatever points or perks you want to get that's along the way, you get those, and once you hit the Wonder Fizz, you just buy each perk for $3,000-4,000, right? But even let's say you are trending right next to Wonder Fizz machine. Let's say you want to, um, you just go down, you lose perks and stuff. Let's say you want to rebuy it all back. Well, since you're right there, obviously you're gonna buy everything back, but that creates like a cost effect to it, because you're gonna spend a lot more points than you would as opposed to, let's say, going out in the world and getting those perks back. So that would create an interesting dynamic that wouldn't inherently make the game more challenging, but it does give you something to think about. Because let's say maybe you're like mid rounds, right? And let's say the perks that you buy, well, let's say you're maybe like about to like buy something else. Let's say you're about to like pack a punch or something, but let's say that you go down, and so you got to buy some perks back, right? So now you're gonna think if you're in like mid rounds where it's like not too crazy, you can easily like get your stuff back, and like the Wonder Fizz is actually available. Now you're gonna think to yourself, okay, do I want to just go ahead and go to the Wonder Fizz and just buy everything there and just spend a few more rounds, like get more perks or points just to do what I was gonna do before, like pack a punch or whatever, or do I actually want to save some points and go to those perk machines individually. Again, it's like mid round, maybe even early round, so it's not too crazy. So you have that leeway of being able to kind of think about that. So I think that would again create a interesting dynamic that would change the economy because even though again you have the classic point system, because you have like a lot of things with classic zombies is once you get those higher rounds, you have so much points at your disposal that assuming like you always had only like three downs and then you're out, but you could always easily get back into the game because you have a lot of points at your disposal most of the time. But with this new or reintroducing a classic point system, but still having these economies where you're spending a lot of points, it would still kind of effectively create like do what modern zombies is trying to do, where you're trying to think about your buys, but you also wouldn't have to stress about it. So again, it's just more like, hey, what's more efficient for me, without like having to be like, oh, well, I just had to rebuy my all my perks, so now I can't get pack two or three. You know what I mean? But that's something I would. That those are two ideas. So just to reiterate, perk limit, six at least. But you still have stuff like perk drops and side quests and stuff like that. Or no perk limit, but instead of normal scaling prices, the perks available within the map are at their OG perk cost, and of course you have like modern perks that weren't introduced from the old system, like um the new Wisp T and like Elemental Pop. Just give those a perk cost, just a standard one, or even like if you don't want to like think about that, just make them only available. Maybe in like the Wonder Fizz. I don't know, but we have ideas like that. Um, so the next big topic, um, the armor system. So I honestly there's I think the easiest way to go about this, if I'm being honest, is something has to change. Something has to change. The I think personally, besides the whole like actual like Warzone armor arguments stuff like that, I think my issue with the modern armor system is that it creates an artificial difficulty that is not naturally fun. So obviously, early rounds, it is easy, and then you get to high rounds, and then once the damage or or the zombies have reached their damage scaling cap, you could get like 2, 3 hit down, despite the fact you have Jug, and that's I just kind of think that devalues the whole like natural progression of difficulty of making kind of that artificial difficulty. So first and foremost, I would say zombies like remove zombies damage scaling to where they just have a set um damage that they do, and they hit you in a few, and they hit you a couple times and you go down. But we obviously want to combine these systems to make them not only accessible for the casual player, but still like have that difficulty curve for hardcore players. So I think obviously we should remove zombies damage, but I think maybe what we could do is we just have it so either we have more health, or yeah, I guess we would have more health to kind of like how Black Ops 3 made it to where you could take 3 hit downs without Jug. I think in this new rework that I would do is that by default you maybe take around 4 to 5 hits, but what we can do is first off we're removing the armor system, and I'm going to explain why in a second. But I think what Jug should do is could rework Jug, instead of increasing health further. I think Jug should actually have damage mitigation. So instead of damage mitigation coming from armor, I think Jug should just have damage mitigation. So what would that look like? I really didn't make the time to actually like crunch the numbers on like what that would actually look like. But let's say 4 to 5 hits without Jug. Um, modern zombies. A lot of the things with like natural like movement systems and stuff. They make the zombies hit a lot harder. Are a lot faster most of the time. So you'd have 4 to 5 hits. However you want to tweak that. But what Jug would do is you would have like damage mitigation, and I haven't questioned I haven't done the math for the numbers, so we're just throwing out a number. Let's say the damage mitigation is like either 25% or maybe even 20%, um, and then up to like maybe like 33%. But what would this look like across the board? So I think the damage mitigation would only be against probably like uh normal zombies, and if they continued to keep having armored zombies, I would rather them be removed. But either just normal zombies and like armor zombies, you would just have damage mitigation against those enemy types. Holy voice cracks, I'm sorry, but you would have damage mitigation against those enemy types. But then you would have it to where like you will have your augments and stuff, or let's say even like the damage mitigation, again I don't know the numbers, it'd be only 20%. So you could take a few more hits. Then you have either a um a augment that increases your base health. So again, I don't know what the numbers would look like, which one would be more helpful. So you'd either increase your base health, or you would increase damage mitigation against normal zombies. Then you'd maybe have, I'm not going to go into like every augment that I've thought about for this new Jug, but these are just spitballing some ideas. And then so you have a augment that further increases mitigation towards normal zombies. And then maybe instead of just normal zombies, you would have a damage mitigation against special and elite zombies. So just for poops and giggles, we're gonna say like they brought back the doppelgash or something like that, and then they brought back abomination. So you would have damage mitigation against those now, as opposed to before they just do the same amount of damage. To where let's say like a boss, let's just say like the Zersa. I think the Zersa by default like normally like will 2-3 hit you. So damage mitigation against elite zombies would give you like an extra maybe hit or two before they can completely down you. So that would be again something that would kind of naturally, I feel like, in a sense, maybe play the same as modern zombies, but you're completely changing the formula as the way you interact with it. Because if you lose your Jug, you still can go down in only like 4 to 5 hits. But if you're in those higher rounds, of course they hit harder, but it would still be just like instead of like if you had like normal Jug before, I think normal Jug back then was like 5 to 6 hits. Not including like Black Ops 3 where you had like stuff like the mask and stuff, but it would effectively like recreate some stuff like that, where the mask would give you like extra damage resistance against like certain enemy types and stuff like that. Now, do I think we should still have like map or like unique Easter eggs in the game that like do that? Yes, I think they should. And whether or not that creates or makes it better or not, it would be one of those things that's like map unique instead of like across the board, right? But again, to reiterate, we are completely removing the armor system. We are making by default without Jug. No zombies damage scaling. Normal zombies do like 4 to 5 hits. You get damage mitigation against normal zombies with Jug, and then maybe an augment that'll increase your health, increase your damage mitigation against standard zombies, and then add damage mitigation against special and or elite zombies. But then like what about like like the little like special round zombies? Like let's say for example, just because Black Ops 7 is coming, like something like what did they call them? The little Ravengers, I believe. Something like that, like in this like no damage scaling. Obviously they would still just do they would do just like a set amount of hits towards you. Usually they take more hits against you. Or they usually take some more hits to like down you or something like that. So maybe even like let's say the minor augment increases damage mitigation against those like special round zombies and stuff like that. Um, but I think by default they would not really have any extra damage mitigation even with Jug, but maybe like an augment for like the special round zombies. Um, and again, just for example's sake, like maybe like a vermin or a parasite, maybe you could have like extra mitigation through the against them through like an augment or something like that. So if we didn't have armor and our mitigation is through the augments or through Jug, so what would we have as like a defense system? So I think this is where they would bring back the classic shield. Now, let me go a full stop right there. Bringing back the classic shield does not necessarily mean that I'm suggesting we bring back, um, buildables where it's three items in three different locations that you got to memorize each game. Again, that's something again that is, I think, for the sake of making the game more accessible, we don't have to go back to that, but it also still kind of creates that base formula of that natural kind of progression in game. So what would a zombie shield look like? I think it could be something basic where it is like your normal zombie shield from back in the day, and maybe it's not like Black Ops 3 where map to map they get unique abilities. Now, would I rather that 100%? Um, but the way I'm going to explain how that the zombie shield would work would maybe not be friendly to that. So I don't know how this would work. But instead of building it, I think again you just do like a quick 1 to 2 step quest that would just obtain it normally. So again, you don't have to find three parts that could potentially spawn in three different locations each game. You just do a quick like 1 to 2 step a thing that could just give you a zombie shield. So for example, and I'm using this example because I originally was going to use this as like a normal armor system rework, but I'm just going to use this for my zombie shield example. So I think something as basic as something like this that would work is a quick 1 to 2 step, similar to like how I mentioned before with loadouts, is that you just obtain something or maybe interact with something, and then you interact with something else, and then you go somewhere, and then you just have a zombie shield. As simple as that, right? So that's like one way we could do it. And you could again make it map unique each time. How that would really differ each map, obviously that would be to the discretion and creativity of the devs. But again, I think that's something like a quick like 1 to 2 step instead of being like a whole build process would be something that would be very beneficial. Now, could it be something like different and more simple as just, let's say, like you just get salvage and then they just put the armor, the zombie shield in a crafting table? Sure. I that devalues my fundamental of progression in game. So I think it should be something obtained in game, and then you can maybe interact with the crafting table in some sort. And that's actually going to be in my next big talking point for the crafting table rework. So as far as that goes, my going back to zombie shield. So again, you do quick 1 to 2 step, obtain it. How that would work is kind of similar to Black Ops. Let's say 4. You would still have the ability to replenish your shield. So either wherever you like picked it up for, let's say it's like a dedicated bench of some sort, or like table, where it's not like a menu thing, but where you picked it up from. Uh, and maybe after you pick it up, maybe it like shows in a few more locations. I'm a big fan of it just being like maybe one spot. But let's say you can like go back into it, interact with it for some points, and you replenish it. Maybe you can like get the zombie shield and you just go to the crafting table. And similarly, how you can get to the crafting table and just buy like shield plates. You just go to the crafting table for some salvage, replenish your shield. Another thing, of course, that could help replenish your shield is like the similar to like the max armor, you just have a drop. Black Ops 4, you could get refilled through Carpenter, so you just have like a new drop that's dedicated for the zombie shield where it'll replenish, and or I think we would still have this system in this I quote unquote ideal zombies game where zombies like drop stuff like equipment, utility, and stuff like that. But maybe they could drop like in a sense uh like shield parts or something like that. Like shield salvage or something like that. I don't know, like however you want to frame it. Um, like quote unquote is essentially going to be the equivalent of armor plates, but the way it's going to work is that it will be more similar to Black Ops Cold War, where you actually have the shield that's on your back, but if zombies can essentially drop these quote unquote shield plates, that would replenish your that would replenish the durability on your shield. Now, to make this not necessarily busted, I think it would be something that's more like the zombies like drop these like very sparingly, so like very fraction, like a fraction of the rate at which the armor plates will drop, and whether or not like I don't think these should fill maybe like the whole shield durability. Whether it should or not, just let me know. But maybe it like refills like a portion of it. So kind of similar to how we have three armor plates and you have three in reserve. Maybe like picking up these like shield plates would replenish your shield durability just by walking over it. But maybe like replenishes like a third of your shield. So kind of just keeping that like foundation of like a rule of three. So I think that would be something interactive. Excuse me. And the zombie shield would, of course, be something that's not only just stuck to your back, but maybe something that you could still interact with, or like bring it out to like your front. Maybe it should stay on the back. I don't know, but that would be something where it would have to work around the mechanics of the game and like buttoning and everything. But alternatively, maybe the zombie shield could, and this would be kind of hard to do since you have a dedicated melee slot for um you have a dedicated melee slot for having your like melee weapons, but I like an idea is like maybe like when you kind of bring it out, it kind of replaces like your melee weapon. Not fully, like it doesn't actually replace like your melee weapon slot, but maybe like you hold it. I don't know. I really didn't think that one through. But the more like in my mind I was thinking about was it kind of interacted more like a score streak where you like just press a button on your D pad, or like on your pad, like you press down, but score streaks do that. So as far as like how you can actually bring it out front, maybe you don't. Maybe it's just something that's just on your back, that just kind of stays there, similar to like the normal armor system. Maybe you can still hold triangle to like bring it out in some way, or like maybe maybe double tap triangle. I don't know, or whatever kind of controller you use, whatever button layout you use, keyboard or mouse. So I think this would like reworking it in instance would again kind of create that natural scaling where it's something that is not it's a resource that's not always available to you. But even if like let's say the durability goes all the way to zero, that doesn't necessarily mean that it would go away and you have to actually go back and fetch it and pick it up again like the classic zombies did. Like again, this would just stay on your back, and then if it did, um, the durability did deplete to zero, this would just make it so you have no longer any protection on your back or something like that. So no protection on your back temporarily. So now you gotta think on the fly, be more reserved and stuff like that. But let's say you go ahead and you kill a zombie. He drops the zombie plate or the shield plate, and then now you have some durability on your shield again. So it would be something where, again, for the sake of kind of mixing that classic and appealing to casuals, where it's not something that you actively have to keep going out and fetching for whenever the depletion or when the durability depletes. It would be something that's just still in your back the whole time, and then whenever you either get like like a armor, like we're just gonna call it a shield up. I think that's one of the gobble guns, but for the sake of like, let's say you get like a shields up drop, like that's what it's called, like instead of max armor. You get shields up, so that's gonna replenish your armor. You either just go to the crafting table, you just you can replenish durability with salvage, or the zombies will drop something. So that's kind of my big rework on the whole health system, the armor system. So again, reiterate. Uh, Zombies have no more damage scaling. By default, it's maybe like 2 to 5 hits. So new and like casual players will still have that sense of early round. You know, being easy to go through, more accessible. But higher rounds are gonna get crazier. So instead of like that kind of artificial, um, difficulty by just making them like zombies two shot you. It's just 4 to 5 hits. Then what Jug would do is it would create or damage mitigation. You have augments that could further buff that up, and then you have effectively the zombie shield system, like the classic where it protects you from the back. You're still vulnerable from the front, but then that changes how you interact with a horde and stuff like that, and kind of changes up the way you play and stuff like that. So that would be, and like I said, as far as obtaining the shield, it would just be it's just basic 1 to 2 step, easy to walk through, like naturally obtainable like side quests, that you just get by like just progressing. So kind of going into my next big thing is the crafting table. So another big problem with the modern zombie system is the crafting table. Now, the crafting table, of course, gives you a bunch of things that just creates a streamlined experience map to map that makes stuff very, very less unique, in my opinion, thus making it less fun. So, what would a crafting table rework look like in my eyes? First and foremost, I would, like a lot of people say, crafting tables should have map unique content. So map unique streaks, map unique utility and stuff like that, what have you. So I'm not sure where I actually want to start with this. So I guess I'll just start it with how I have it in my notes. So I would like to have crafting tables have different items in a given location. What does that mean? So instead of every crafting table throughout the map having everything then and there, I think there should be quote unquote either different types of crafting tables, or like I think maybe we could do a couple things here. And this is kind of me thinking of something on the fly. You could have like maybe 1 or 2 universal crafting tables where everything is in there. Um, Kind of similar as to like a Wonder Fizz for a crafting table, where you have your 3 separate menus and stuff like that. But but again, I think that should be like 1 or 2 locations in a given map. But I think and that I just kind of like thought of on the fly. Um, but my main idea behind this rework crafting table system is that um in different locations it would have certain items. So what would that look like? Uh, let's say you have whatever map is out. So let's say you have a crafting table near spawn. This crafting table near spawn would only have, let's say, lethal and tactical equipment. So you go in there, you open it up, but you can only buy lethal and tactical equipment from this crafting table. And then let's say you have a crafting table on your way to pack a punch, maybe. Like it's like, let's say spawns one side of the map, pack a punch on the other side of the map. There's a crafting table in between. Let's say this crafting table has only like streaks or something like that. Let's say streaks. Um, Again, these streaks should be like map unique. But this just basically has streaks. Again, you would just buy them for salvage or whatever. And then let's say there's like a crafting table just closer to around pack a punch area. And let's say this pack a punch has your quote unquote like miscellaneous stuff. So let's say it'll have like this shield replenish. It would have your self revives in it. And whatever else is on like that main I forget like the 3 different menus for the crafting tables, but it would just have like Kind of like your miscellaneous stuff. Um, I think, and I'm gonna talk about this a little bit later, in another point. But because we're removing rarities, so we wouldn't have an armory for rarities and ammo mods. Maybe we move the ammo mods into the crafting table. So like this third quote unquote miscellaneous, um, crafting table would have only like ammo mods, maybe have like the self revive, what have you, right? So this crafting table, um, in kind of this newer version of zombies would have maybe one or two like universal crafting tables, and then you have three separate ones for like your different kind of main things. So again, grenades slash equipment, streaks, and then quote unquote miscellaneous. So why do I say that? I think another problem with modern zombies, and especially these streamlined systems, is because you have stuff like ammo crates, ammo crates, crafting tables, and armory stations that are kind of spread out in the map enough to where if you really wanted to, not you could just stick to one area and just stay there all the time. And while you always want a dedicated, excuse me, training spot for like later in the game, um, I think one of the values about like classic zombies is like, especially those instances where you go down and have to rebuy anything or rebuy everything, or like you want something specific, you have to go out into the world, and even if you're like in a high round, you have to go out and like traverse that map again. You have to go out and like kind of traverse the map again. Excuse me, kind of clear my throat. So I think having to, um, you know, create these kind of like spreading your resources out would make you have to, traverse the map in meaningful ways that interacts with the gameplay loop. So for example, right, you have a map like Ashes of the Dam that's coming out with Black Ops 6. They're claiming that it has the biggest map, especially with the most playable space. Now imagine on Ashes of the Dam. Of course, I assume you're going to be all throughout the map for the Easter egg. If you're not an Easter egg hunter in any way, shape, or form, you're just high rounding. You have this huge map. You're probably just going to get what you get. You're just going to sit in one like corner of the map, and that's it. Because in that corner of the map, you're probably going to have everything. As a game developer, obviously, you have meanings for traversing the map in other ways. But if you have people like the majority of your fan base who don't engage in that, what point is there? And I say this very seriously. What point is there into making a huge map in which people will not use most of the map most of the time, besides their initial just going through it, right? So I think spreading stuff out in these ways, and again going back to the whole reworking the whole point cost system for perks, it would make you have to go back and traverse the map in meaningful ways, but you'll still have that option to just stick to a certain area if you wanted to, because you would still have, let's say, that one universal crafting table or whatnot, right? So I think that should be a thing. um, Now, going back to streaks, obviously there's a big conversation around streaks, whether or not they should still be in the game. They're so multiplayer-fied. We should have like more map unique stuff, map unique streaks, and yada yada yada. So before I get into the big thing about streaks, I wanted to actually add another way to kind of interact with the crafting table. Um, an idea I had, whether this one is kind of out there, so whether or not this actually is like something a lot of people will agree with, I don't think probably will, but it's like a fun idea that maybe could be introduced like at some point. Maybe if like Big Treyarch doesn't do it, maybe if Sledgehammer ever wants to like dabble in the zombies game, maybe they could like entertain something like this. But maybe like the crafting table, instead of having to unlock um waiting certain levels to unlock stuff through the crafting table. So, for example, like you have to reach around like 30 something to get like the Gersh grenades out of it. I think to unlock stuff in map, and you have to do this like game by game, is that you can unlock what you can use by in the crafting table by doing some sort of prerequisite first. So, what does that look like? So my kind of first ideas, and again, there could be more ideas. This idea could be like stupid, just in general, or like the idea I'm introducing is like maybe not the best. There's another way to do it. So kind of like borderline or like kind of base. Like let's say you just have your regular tacticals and lethals, right? Um, as far as the tacticals and lethals, like stuff like that usually just naturally drops from zombies anyway. So because they're like plentifully like dropping from zombies, and then you also have stuff like, Vulture's Aid that would with augments that'll make them drop more. What if from the crafting table you have to do something out in the world before you can be able to buy stuff from the crafting table? So let's just say it's something as literally basic as you cannot buy like a frag grenade, assuming, assuming you don't spawn in with one, because let's say in a sense you still have like loadouts in a way of like you spawn in, you could pick like your starting pistol, and you could pick like what equipment you want to spawn in with, like tacticals and lethals, right? So let's say we still have that as kind of like a base, like you can spawn into the game, or even just in general, like you don't pick your pistol, but you do pick the loadout that you want to obtain in the game. So let's say you pick whatever rifle, and then you pick your tactical lethal, but your tactical lethal you just get off spawn anyway. So let's say you don't spawn in with a frag grenade, right? So let's say you spawn in with a frag grenade, but let's say you want a semtex grenade. Sometimes you might want to get one from like uh, the crafting table. But instead of being able to just immediately go to the crafting table, what if you had to do something as basic as a zombie drops it and you just have to actually pick it up first to be able to ever like buy it from the crafting table? Or they could even go as far as to like, oh, you have to get a certain amount of kills with certain equipment before you can unlock it in the crafting table. Um, to be able to buy it from the crafting table. So what does that look like? Again, like let's say you spawn in, even if you spawn in with a frag grenade, you can't buy a frag grenade from the crafting table. But let's say you have to get something as little as like 5 kills with the craft or the frag grenade, or it could be like up to like 25 kills. And then once you get the frag grenade kills, you can unlock it for the crafting table. But then you also got to do that with maybe a Molotov, and then maybe you have to do that with a Semtex grenade. So now something like that I can see being very tedious. But again, it kind of unlocks that like natural progression inventory of this. Not something that you can just go in off the jump and buy. So you actually have to in game like unlock it first. And again, this would again be game by game. Again, I can see it's a very tedious thing to do instead of just being able to unlock it by level. But I think instead of like, I think we should just get rid of like level unlocks to get stuff to the crafting table. So that's why I say even if it's something as basic as um getting or like picking them up to be able to unlock it through the crafting table. So what would that look like for something like the Gersh grenades and the monkey bombs, because they're super rare, right? Well, if we get rid of rarities, then I think that would heavily reduce the mystery box bloat. So maybe we could even just put the monkey bombs and the Gersh grenades back into the mystery box. And so again, if you're just casually hitting the box and then you get one of those, it's like cool. You can pick it up and you can instantly swap out your equipment back to what you had before. But you can, after picking it up for the first time, now you could get it in the crafting table. But again, they would also like naturally drop from zombies and stuff. Now again, that would be very nuanced. So unless there is like a specific Easter egg that requires you to use specific equipment. So for example, back in Shattered Veil, you had to get the Molotov or the Gersh grenades to be able to you can actually pick up the I think the throwing axe and the Gersh grenade, and because you had to actually do Easter egg steps that required you to utilize those. So stuff like that, like if they did have like stuff that might indicate that it would be needed for an instant like Easter egg step, then why not just have that be something you could just naturally obtain in the world? Either just like you go into a certain area and it's just there on the ground or something like that, and then it's the same thing. You just pick it up once, and then it's in the crafting table. So I think that is like a really big way that I will like kind of overhaul the crafting table, in a sense that would still very much create like that kind of streamlined system, but it would be something that you would actually have to interact with in a meaningful way to create kind of like a good map to map, unique, replayable experience. Now, of course, you're going to be doing the same thing every map, but kind of like my next point I was going to make is stuff like quote unquote streaks that you would get, I think first off, every streak should be more like zombies unique type of streak. So for example, something like the mutant injection. So mutant injection, for Black Ops 7, they're going to be having the disciple injection, but I think mutant injections should be honestly a staple that's in every zombies map. But it should be something where that injection should be unique map to map by the whatever specialist is or special zombie is on the map. Or maybe it doesn't even have to be the zombie on the map. It could be like, you know, for Ashes of the Dam, you're gonna have the disciple. But as far as we know, the disciple isn't something that like naturally spawns. So just again, something that's like map to map unique. Maybe you can even have like up to two mutant injections. One that's just like the developers or the team decides, this specialist zombie isn't on the map, but they want you to be able to use it. But then now you get to, but then there's a second version where it is based off of the map unique special zombie, right? So what would that look like if we were to maybe implement something like that with the aforementioned mention of having to unlock something in the world first before you can get it um through the crafting table. So something like super super simple, again going super super simple, is maybe like the first time you kill the special zombie that spawns. Usually I think they spawn like somewhere around like 10 or 11. Like first time you kill one, I think maybe first time, each time they drop their respective mutant injection, and then now you can use it in the crafting table too, right? So that would create like a natural progression, in which like if you accidentally maybe miss it and you don't pick it up, or maybe you just decide not to miss or pick it up, now you gotta wait for another special zombie to spawn and maybe drop that before you can again get the mutant or that respective injection from the crafting table. Now, what if we took it a step further? If we want to cater to quote unquote more interactive, hardcore players, so something again just super basic, I think, would be maybe like each map has a basic syringe item. You have to go find it. You have to pick it up, and then you have to whatever special zombie you kill. So for just be funny, let's say a map has a panzer. You pick up a syringe. You kill a panzer, and then after you just kill the panzer, you just gotta walk over it, hold interact, and then you extract its essence. Boom! You immediately have a mutant injection in your inventory, and then boom! Now you can unlock it in the crafting table. Or you can even go even further into where there's like a HVT version of a special elite zombie, in which you have to kill that in some way, shape, or form, whether it's like a side Easter egg, or maybe it's just like it just naturally spawns at some point, or maybe like there's like a special area in each map where this HVT version will spawn, and then either same thing, you can have like the syringe idea, but you have to specifically kill this HVT version, and then you extract its essence, and then boom, you can be able to get that mutant injection, or you just kill the mutant, or you just kill the HVT, no syringe needed. It just drops one again. Just again, the idea is just stuff like that where you have to basically interact with the world before you can just get these kind of easy cop out to use items, and still they would still have to be like, you would still have to purchase them with like salvage and stuff like that. Maybe you still like purchase them with salvage, but you still have to unlock them first in game uh before you can use them. And again, it wouldn't be like level capped where actually you get like a certain level, then you just buy them infinitely. But then that would also, I think, change up the way you play each time, because if you know that you want to run like a mutant injection strat for a high round, then you can do that. But if you think like maybe you just want to play normally, you don't want to have to do all that, you don't want to have to think about the crafting table, then you just play normally, you don't have to think about the crafting table, right? But you have those options, and again, it just creates like an interactive way to go with the to interact with the environment. Um, so and my last thing about the crafting table, which again is kind of like a hit or miss idea, is um, I think obviously if we would clearly want streaks to be more map or zombies unique, and we would preferably have them be map specific each time. Now that would be very, I think, challenging to do because that would require the creative team to not only think of different things map to map, but then it would also have to have them balance all these things map to map. If they didn't want this just streamlined system of everything being available in every map, so that would be potentially a challenge that they have to face, specifically in regards to streaks, being like map and zombies meet unique. But what if instead of like streaks, what if they just changed it to where instead of something like streaks, it was something like uh, and I mean I already know what I'm gonna say, but I guess I'll just go ahead and say it. What if instead of like streaks, it was more like a trap like item that's like portable? So I think that would like make it more like easy to implement into the crafting table while also effectively removing streaks. Because obviously they're usually gonna have map to map unique traps. So what if again in the similar vein, you have to interact with certain traps maybe like a certain amount of times. So, for example, like the saw blade trap in Black Ops 7. Again, these aren't stuff that would be implemented in Black Ops 7, but I'm obviously using Black Ops 7, even maybe even some Black Ops 6 as just examples of what this would look like in another title, right? So maybe like the saw trap, maybe you have to use it like 3 to 4 or like 3 to 5 times, and then you can now unlock it in the crafting table. And then in the crafting table, you can just basically buy like a weaker portable version of the saw trap. So what would that look like? Again, you just get a saw trap, you buy it, you place it down. Maybe it either just doesn't last as long, or maybe it doesn't have that like attraction radius. So you would actually have to like guide the zombies to like walk into them. So maybe like stuff like that. Where another idea I have is like some traps have like maybe like an electric, or some maps have like an electric trap, so the zombies like walk into them. So what if like have this portable item where if you have like an entryway of like an area, you can like place it on the wall, and it again temporarily just makes a trap effect to where it could just have that trap effect. So instead of having to be in a certain area to use a trap, you have it on the go. So I think that would kind of like again, it's kind of like combining quote unquote streaks with traps to make it like actual more zombies unique item and zombies unique experience that actually is like interactive and fun to do. So it's ideas like that, even something another like a spike trap. You just place like spikes on the floor. Zombies walk on it. They kill them. Again, it just has like a trap effect. So effectively, what I'm saying is, quote unquote, rework streaks into if it's harder to do like more diverse, like map to map, unique zombies unique streaks. Maybe instead of streaks, you just make them like traps that you have to like interact with to be able to unlock them in the crafting table, and then you effectively unlock like a lesser portable version of a trap that would replace streaks. Right, so kind of following up on the streaks in the crafting table. Another sort of rework I would do is in regards to ammo mods. So, like I said before, arguably because we're removing rarities, maybe you could still have um the ammo mods in an arsenal machine by themselves, but I'm actually gonna get into what I kind of want to rework around that. But you can also, or you can just move them into the crafting table in some sort of way, shape, or form. You know, they could be their own tab. Like I mentioned before, with the um, crafting tables being item unique, you could just have, instead of like an armory, well, it would effectively be an armory, but it would just be a station where you just get ammo mods just from that station. But I was actually thinking another way we can actually kind of effectively like change around ammo mods is to effectively turn them into uh, in a sense like perk machines in the way like they're placed throughout the map. So I mean, they would still be worth salvage, but they would essentially be like little crates similar to armor crates or ammo crates, where there would be little crates on the ground, but each individual crate has just its own ammo, like a singular ammo mod, and then you still have a like central ammo mod where you could buy any of them, similar to like a Wonder Fizz machine. So what am I saying? So similar to how I said, like, you know, we're gonna be how I'd like this to move around the crafting table. I think you could have it into a way where you have like a certain amount of ammo mods in the map, placed throughout the map. So maybe like four. I don't know how much they're planning on putting throughout all these zombies games, or just even in a single game. Well, let's say like for example, you have like your four main ones across the map, and again, map to map, they can be different. So let's say you have, similar to an ammo crate, you have a crate on the ground. So they would just be, I just kind of call them, to be corny, mod boxes. So you have a mod box. This specific mod box is just a fire mod box. So you go up to it, you have salvage 500 or whatever. You go to interact with it. It's not a menu. You interact with it, and then whatever gun you have out, it gives you the fire mod box. And then in a different location on the map, let's say you have lightning box. And so again, you go up to it, 500 salvage. It immediately puts lightning, or removes whatever your last one was, and it puts that ammo mod on it. And then again, you'll have like brain rot, cryo freeze, something like that, right? And then these are just again box, like you don't have to do anything special with those, but you have to get to them, or you have the option to just go up to a box that has a specific mod on it, and then so instead of being in a menu, you just go up to it and interact with it. Now, obviously, these mod boxes would be sparingly, similar to perks, where you'd only have certain ammo mods on a given map, and then the rest you would have to get through either armory or like the crafting table. So I think again that would be something that encourages you moving throughout the map, to be able to actually like specifically want to be in an area for a reason. So if you know like, oh, this, again, I'm just using Black Ops 7 as an example, just to kind of see where my ideas are going. So if I'm like, oh, I know the fire mod box is on exit 115, aka diner. So you go to diner, and then like at the doorsteps of the outside the diner is the firebox. But then you're like, oh, for this gun though, I want to put lightning on it, so I want to go to the frozen lake. You know what I mean? So you get that, or maybe like cryo freeze for like the frozen lake. But you get the general idea. So you know you have a certain amount of like mod boxes on the ground pertaining to a specific element, and you know 4 or 5, and then you just have like a central either ammo crate or like a crafting table, to where the ammo mods are in there. So you know the ones that aren't actually on the map, you can actually get those for you can actually get those. You can still access those. And so I think like the main idea around this is, first off, again, to encourage being in certain areas of the map for specific reasons. But then also it encourages like, you know, just kind of lessening the amount of menus in zombies. Because one thing about zombies that I strongly agree with is that It shouldn't have like a bunch of menus into like what you have to interact with, because a lot of times that just creates unfortunate scenarios where maybe like mid round you're trying to do something, there's a horde behind you, you go into a menu, you mess up the menu, and then you go down, something like that. So that's why I think that that would be a cool idea. As far as kind of just this would be like more of a quality of not life, not really like combining systems type of thing. But it does again add that map to map uniqueness to where this map you have these ammo boxes on the ground out in the world, and then this map you have different sets, etc., etc. All right, so the next big thing I actually want to talk about is actually field upgrades. So, for field upgrades, this would be like a touchy topic, but I think this solution would be very viable. So, I think still in menu with your loadout, you would have to pick your field upgrade. Now, whether you spawn in with one or you have to get that field upgrade out of your loadout that you pick, I think presumably we would still be able to have to like spawn in with one. That's whatever. But again, a lot of things with modern systems is that everything's streamlined. So you're just using Ether Shroud on every single map, yada yada yada. Again, going back to Expert Fusion, I just keep referencing him because again, I'm a huge fan. I just agree with a lot of things he says. But stuff like field upgrades, where he suggests we should be able to get them in game and have to naturally do it from like a side quest to get them. I agree. Will they ever gonna? Are they ever gonna do that? Uh, Most likely not. Like 99%, they're probably not going to do that. But I think as far as field upgrades goes, I think we can introduce something way more cooler. Where again, it's just a classic or it's just a hybrid of classic system with modern system. So going back to Black Ops 3, obviously we had specialist weapons, so stuff we had to like actually build in game through either just different side quests, or we have to yeah, they were specific or mostly gained through side quests and stuff like that. um but so I think as far as to make each map to map um, experience unique, I'll still be able to have these streamlined systems. Is you can still be able to spawn in with any field upgrade that you get out of game, uh, or you can equip out of game from. So you go in with your Ether Shroud, you go in with your um, Friendly Guard or whatever. But I think each map should have a map to map specialist weapon, like how they used to do in Black Ops 3. But then what that effectively would accomplish is that I think stuff like these, because you already have your field upgrades, this can be something that can definitely be more interactive for like more hardcore slash Easter egg hunty people. So this one would actually require a lot more effort in doing like a side Easter egg to unlock said specialist weapon. Obviously, this specialist weapon would be very powerful, so it would actually have to be worth the effort to obtain it instead of being something super simple to obtain. So, for example, again, uh, just for the sake of argument, let's say whatever this, because I'm not going to be able to think of like a new unique specialist item at the top of my head. Let's just say for if we had these systems in Black Ops 8, let's just say we had the Ragnaroks, right? So out of the, like in game you can spawn in with your Ether Shroud. Then once you get in game, you do whatever side quests, get parts or whatever to effectively, maybe earn like Ragnaroks. And what this would effectively do is it would just swap out your field upgrade and replace it with the specialist weapon. Um, and so, you have it, and just like your field upgrade, you charge it up to be able to use it. Once you use it, this is your charge, and then you charge it up again, etc., etc. Now, if you switch out your specialist weapon, would you be able to go back to your field upgrade? Yes. How would you do that? So maybe wherever you obtain the field upgrade or the specialist weapon from, maybe whatever quest you do, you like just get it from like some sort of like bench in the wild, like not an actual like crafting table, but like wherever you get it, or maybe there's like a dedicated spot to where like if you swap out this specialist weapon or for the specialist weapon, you have to go to the spot to get your field upgrade back. You could do that, or I think probably what would be the easier thing to do is if you have this specialist weapon, you get it, you obtain it. Maybe it even like after you get it for the first time, it goes in the bench. Again, this would be map unique, so it'd be like a map unique, just the bench for that map. So let's say the Ragnaroks, you get it for the first time. And because in modern zombies you can swap out your field upgrades mid game. Let's say you want to go back to your ether shroud. So you just go to you just press your start button, go to your menu, just click on your ether shroud, and then it just immediately swaps it back. So if it swaps it back to your field upgrade, or what does your specialist weapon go? Well, maybe it just goes back into the crafting table or something like that. Maybe you got to get salvaged to buy it back. Whether or not that'd be a controversial thing, I don't know. Maybe you just grab it out back out of the crafting table for free. Maybe it has its own dedicated bench in which you could free pick it back up. That's something that could obviously be debated in many different ways. But just the main idea is that for field upgrades, you still have the ability, even though we have a universal system like field upgrades, you could still obtain map to map unique stuff that isn't going to be like a FOMO type effect. So going back to what I said earlier about Shadows of Evil, like I never learned how to do the shield or the Apothecon sword. Everything like every other specialist weapon throughout the game, I knew how to do, except the Apothecon sword. But because of that, I never really felt FOMO because I never really cared about it. But after like getting it for myself for the first time, I was like, dude, I could have been using this the whole time to make stuff easier on myself. So people who just prefer to use like their either shroud, frenzy guard, what have you, you can still effectively do that. But then hardcore players have the ability to engage in something that would be more rewarding that could swap out the system, to not have that that feeling of everything feeling the same because you can just be able to obtain like a map unique specialist weapon. So I think that is something that could be very much possible, and that's something that they definitely should bring back as far as something like map unique stuff goes. Okay, so my big field upgrade one was kind of like the last big like over arching like thing as far as like complaint or combining modern and classic mechanics goes. So kind of just like to close out here, just a few like miscellaneous stuff. So going back to like we all have conversation over the zombies HUD. I think we should all have like some sort of or zombies should have its own unique HUD by default. And then obviously the idea of HUD themes that's coming to Black Ops 7. We haven't seen them all yet, but obviously if you want something like a multiplayer HUD or just to have mini maps and stuff like that, obviously that'd be something that could be changed in menu. But by default, zombies should always have a zombies unique HUD. Um, and just stuff like cleaner HUDs. So, another big problem is that anything you interact with usually has like a big block with like a picture on it. I don't know why they added that. Maybe it's for accessibility reasons. People who have issues. But I think going back to the standard, just like text HUD, whenever you interact with stuff, should be by default. And then if you need those accessibility stuff, that would be something in settings. And just stuff like that, just to streamline, moving where the points come out of. If that's something as far as settings wise, they can have options to change back and forth. That will go a long way. Um, I think overall, as far as like the game goes, like zombies can still like have a health cap. Um, Obviously, like with modern zombies, you kind of want your guns to be more viable. Obviously, this would cater to a lot more casuals who want to be able to play the game without it becoming impossible. But then also people who want to just do gun leveling and stuff like that. I think that would be very viable. Um, but then another like thing I wanted to throw out there, and this isn't like really a hill I'm willing to die on, so it's just something like I'd rather prefer, but I don't really like it's really like a conversation that is like out there, and augments could really like change how this goes. But I wish AAT effectiveness was similar to Black Ops 3, where again, like I said before, Black Ops 3 kind of helped with that curve of high rounding, where it felt like you just had to hit traps all day. But AATs and specialists and stuff like that effectively made you able to kill zombies a lot easier, and it still had that natural difficulty of you having to be careful or you could get overwhelmed, but you still having or being viable enough to still be strong enough to defend yourself against a horde. Again, if they I'm not happy with the way AATs are now, but maybe if they add or rework augments and make them more effective, again, that's not like a hill I'm really willing to die on of them being like as strong as Black Ops 3, but it's whatever at that one. Um, but really, my general idea with all these combined systems is that it should definitely go back towards leaning towards some more like classic more difficult style, because that's what always zombies was always meant to be, right? It was meant to be a more difficult mode. Obviously with corporate gaming and stuff like that, if no one's playing your mode because it's too difficult or what have you, then you're gonna have no reason to support it. So that goes to say, these combined systems, I believe, would still be able to effectively um, create an environment where casual and like new players can still easily hop into, as far as like getting over that learning curve. But just to kind of close out, back onto what I was saying before, like I would want these systems to be leaned more towards challenging as far as difficulty goes into more of the classic side. But again, the idea of combining these systems makes it to so where it's probably not really going to be the case, depending on how you look at it. But how would we accomplish that with casuals? So again, I am a firm believer of just something as basic as survival maps should be a staple standard just going forward. Black Ops 7, Black Ops 8, Black Ops 9, Black Ops X, whatever trailer title they do. Survival maps should be somewhat of a standard in some way, shape, or capacity. Even if they only have like 3 survival maps throughout the whole season, or whole game, those survival maps should be kind of like the hub of where casual players go to be able to kind of ease their way into zombies to kind of essentially train themselves up for the more difficult experience. Like I never think that a game by default should be easy and then you have to force yourself to make it hard. I think a game by default should be hard, but you have stuff that you have experiences that are easier that can kind of ease you into the main mode. So again, going back into Black Ops 2, the experiences that I believe helped me get into becoming a dedicated zombies player for like the main modes and maps was stuff like survival, turn, grief, and other like side modes and stuff like that. So I think that should really be the direction of and again, you can always like market it like the survival modes as like the hey, are you new to zombies? You want to chillax? Come into survival, and again, that could again be your hub for just camo grinding, XP grinding. Because I'm gonna be real honest, and it really is something that I'm very like passionate about. Modern Zombies does not care for the actual zombies mode as it does for just creating an environment for casual players to just come in and boost metrics, either for just camo grinding or XP grinding. And again, they need those metrics to justify continuing uh, supporting the mode. But at the end of the day, if it loses its kind of its foundation and integrity and what made it the mode it is, it's like, well, what's the point of that being marketed as that mode? Like, why not just create it like a whole different experience, right? So I'm really tired of like modern zombies in the sense of like it's become something that zombies wasn't, and we could easily have kind of that natural zombies. Well, I wouldn't say easily, but we can kind of go back to that old zombies formula without it being 1-to-1, but it could still be something that can iterate to introduce more casual players. So all the systems I'm combining, and this doesn't necessarily make it harder um, fundamentally than uh, modern zombies, but it still kind of brings that formula into what makes zombies naturally fun and replayable and challenging. Um, and in a lot of ways, and it all just comes down to basic like gameplay foundations and systems and stuff like that. So I think a lot of this would bring that back while still not being a super difficult experience. But if a zombies player still finds it difficult, then they could top into something like survival, where survival. I think I wouldn't be opposed necessarily to survival going forward, just having everything there, as opposed to like BO2 survival. So again, survival would have where um even without weapon weird blah, 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 even without weapon rarities, you can still arguably like spawn immediately in with the gun you want, but again it could be either that or just you still spawn in with your gun, but you just open one door and then you'll have your loadout right there anyway. So and that'll just make it so you can level up that gun, and then you can just avoid hitting the box for a bit. And then you'll just have pack a punch just there front and center. You'll have and going back to the whole like crafting table and reworks I suggested earlier, in this survival mode, instead of having to unlock stuff in a crafting table through some prerequisite, it would just all be front and center there. So you go to a crafting table, everything's there. So you don't have to pick up a certain grenade and get 5 kills with that grenade, like I suggested earlier, to be able to unlock a grenade in the crafting table. So it'd be basic stuff like that is just already there front and center that would appease to more casual players. And then again, you have other game modes like grief, turned, or I wish they bring turn back, but turn probably people wouldn't care for it because it doesn't level up their guns, and stuff like that. But I think they should, uh, again, just have that kind of sentiment of the standard mode should be more hardcore, and then you would have side modes and experiences, like survival, that would be the entry for casual and new players. And again, it would be easy to just market it like when you open zombies, or for the first time, you just have like a message board like you know play survival now, jump just in, kill some zombies, level up guns, stuff like that. Like just market it that way. No one, I don't think anyone would necessarily mind. um Obviously this is just a lot of like main stuff that I would change. There's obviously probably for a lot of people other stuff as far as modern zombies mechanics and stuff that would have to be addressed, but just to me an idea of all these integrations is to create a more going back to the roots of experiences that are unique, game by game, map by map, um, but combining it with these modern mechanics would make it so it's not inherently difficult, and it would still be accessible, to your average gamer. And so this isn't even me talk about all the issues with side Easter egg, main Easter eggs, and those being like super simple nowadays. I think obviously there should still be side Easter eggs that are more simple, and then there's others that are more engaging that would give you buffs like we used to have, like with the god masks and stuff like that, or even like the wings and stuff in like Garad Crovey, stuff like that. Like if we could implement those back into modern zombies as again just additional modifiers that aren't necessarily um like you feel like it's a requirement to be able to progress into those higher rounds, because by default again everything is going to be arguably naturally more accessible. I want to put it like that because I wouldn't want to rework all this to still make the game like super easy, but obviously it would be something that would kind of hopefully feel like more classic formula. So that's kind of my ideas on what I would introduce as far as um, combining a modern and classic systems. And obviously that would be like for one game, um, maybe two. You know, the thing is like you never want to do like the same mechanics over and over. But again, it would be like well, you know, just an integrate or it would be just iterating going forward. You know, what could we do different to make the game feel different without making it feel too hard or something. But again, I think they could like if we just keep these like standards of having these modes and experiences that welcome newer players, and you can still have that leeway to make the main standard mode more challenging and map to map because those casuals will still be have something to fall back on and stuff like that. So these are my thoughts. Let me know yours. If you took the time to actually watch a lot of this, I thank you so much. This actually took a lot of times or a lot of time to make. This is my first time ever doing something like that or like this, but I really hope people actually listen and at least take into consideration. Let's start a genuine discussion, right? Let's stop going like, oh, let's go back to classic mechanics. Oh, modern is perfect. There's obviously a great divide. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't think this curse mode will solve that divide. But let's have a genuine conversation on what can we do to combine either not only combine modern and classic mechanics, or maybe what new things can we do? Like I said, going back to the point system thing, like expert fusion. Maybe some other content creators have had great ideas on like different ways we can do like a point system, and then what are different ways we could do like other stuff. You know what I mean? So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you guys enjoy, and yeah, peace.
Before I start this, just gonna go ahead and I need to do a tier 3 in here. Alright. Tier 3 you. Brother. Not the mud. Where all the zombies at? Holy shit, bro. Whatever. Whatever. I keep going down. Holy shit. Nice to you. God.
Look after your body, your body will look after you.
Okay. Okay.
If this leads to yet another thing that laughs in the face of physics, I shall be very cross.
Greetings, my bastards.
Textbook definition of daddy issues over. Who's up for finding a guardian?
Alright.
At last, there are technical issues with the hero, and Raptor forbids me from playing Grease Monkey.
Should I just hop right into it, or should I like level up some stuff? Oh wait, I need I will definitely need.
Let's just call it a hunch. I accessed Project Genesis encrypted message logs. There have been multiple.
I just need Ether Shroud at least. I have double charge on, but I at least need one.
The contents of their communiques. It is clear that Kraft is not being entirely honest. I would advise you proceed with caution.
Testament to Mac's combat training program. Go practice your biting on some of your old mates.
see what the trial is. Know what I mean?
Successful candidates will read
Oil trap.
and follow trial instructions.
Fun fact, I have not used the oil trap yet,
Boy,
so
do I feel super pedantic
be kind of
today.
cool. I think it's not counting because I used a Molotov. Brother. That thing like lasts like 2 seconds? Okay. Kinda boring.
I have edited a note to your file to say you don't suck.
It's not spawning anymore, the others. Whatever, bro.
My expectations were low. And yet,
Dude, they just stopped spawning over there.
your error by the useful data. Please note, I did not say very useful.
What was I saying that for? I don't even know anymore. Oh, at least an ether trap. Stop the music. Let's stop the music. That's disappointing.
On your feet. If you are still
Stop the freaking Easter egg song, bro. Maybe that's why people do the one where it lasts longer. That was pretty chill. Oh, and I didn't do like the imbued in shroud. Oh yeah, I was not prepared for this one, bro.
Which is my greatest illusion. Regarding the outcome. Or you.
I was not prepared for this one.
I'm not showing off. You shut up. I prefer myself up close and personal.
Dude. Oh my god, dude. See, like, I'm not even. Okay, that wasn't bad.
You still stand. You have exceeded my expectations.
So if you like step a little bit over, it'll dodge it. I guess if you like step a bit too far, it still hits you. You know, you're outside of the range. But whatever. Whatever, brother. Be balling still. I didn't set up my augments right. If I had like the imbued and dark ether energy one, it does more damage. Plus killing the other zombies around would make it last longer as well. Oh my god. Easy. 3 for 3. Hit him with the 3P. Give me that shit. Mine. Good shit.